Question 269. You are deploying an application on Google Cloud that requires a relational database for storage. To satisfy your company's security policies, your application must connect to your database through an encrypted and authenticated connection that requires minimal management and integrates with Identity and Access Management (IAM). What should you do? A. Deploy a Cloud SQL database with the SSL mode set to encrypted only, configure SSL TLS client certificates, and configure a database user and password. B. Deploy a Cloud SQL database with the SSL mode set to encrypted only, configure SSL TLS client certificates, and configure IAM database authentication. C. Deploy a Cloud SQL database and configure IAM database authentication. Access the database through the Cloud SQL auth proxy. D. Deploy a Cloud SQL database and configure a database user and password. Access the database through the Cloud SQL auth proxy. The correct answer is C. Deploy a Cloud SQL database and configure IAM database authentication. Access the database through the Cloud SQL auth proxy. Explanation 1. Why this is the best option? IAM database authentication integrates with Google Cloud's Identity and Access Management (IAM), allowing you to manage access to the database using IAM roles and policies. This meets the requirement of integrating with IAM for authentication. The Cloud SQL auth proxy provides an encrypted and authenticated connection to the Cloud SQL database with minimal management. It simplifies secure connections by handling the complexities of SSL TLS encryption and IAM authentication. 2. How it meets the requirements. Encrypted connection. The Cloud SQL auth proxy automatically establishes secure connections between your application and the Cloud SQL database, ensuring that data is transmitted securely. Authenticated connection. IAM-based authentication allows for centralized management of access policies using Google Cloud IAM, providing robust access control mechanisms without the need for managing database-specific credentials. Minimal management. The Cloud SQL auth proxy abstracts away many of the complexities of setting up encrypted and authenticated database connections, simplifying the process for your application. Why not the other options? A. Deploy a Cloud SQL database with the SSL mode set to encrypted only, configure SSL TLS client certificates, and configure a database user and password. This option requires manual management of SSL TLS certificates and database users, which adds complexity. While SSL encryption is provided, it doesn't integrate with IAM for authentication, which is a key requirement for your application. B. Deploy a Cloud SQL database with the SSL mode set to encrypted only, configure SSL TLS client certificates, and configure IAM database authentication. While this option includes IAM database authentication, it still involves manual management of SSL TLS certificates and requires configuring both certificates and IAM, which complicates the process and adds extra management overhead. D. Deploy a Cloud SQL database and configure a database user and password. Access the database through the Cloud SQL auth proxy. While the Cloud SQL auth proxy is used here, IAM database authentication is not configured, meaning you'll still rely on traditional database user password-based authentication, which doesn't fulfill the security requirement of integrating with IAM. Conclusion. Option C is the best solution, as it provides a secure, authenticated, and managed connection to Cloud SQL, integrates with IAM for access control, and uses the Cloud SQL auth proxy for minimal management and secure connections.